Welcome to The Explainer. You know, sometimes a 15-minute concert can manage to split an entire nation. Today, we're diving deep into the firestorm that erupted around Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show. This was a moment that really exposed some deep divisions in American culture. And, maybe more importantly, it raised a huge question. Who gets to decide what American even means anymore?
So you have to ask, right? How on earth does the announcement of a musical performance turn into a full-blown culture war? Well, to figure that out, we're going to lean on some really fascinating new research that breaks down exactly what happened when one of the biggest artists in the world met America's biggest stage.
All right, Section 1, a Super Bowl showdown. It all kicked off with just one press release. Bad Bunny is headlining the 2026 halftime show. And the reaction online? It wasn't just big, it was like a digital earthquake. It was immediate, it was intense, and it was completely polarized.
Now, to really get why there was such a backlash, you have to understand something crucial about the halftime show itself. It is so much more than a 15-minute concert. Over the years, it's become this incredibly powerful, symbolic stage. It's like a cultural megaphone that broadcasts a very specific message to the whole world about what American culture is supposed to look and sound like. And that, right there, is exactly why this particular choice lit such a massive fuse.
Okay, Section 2. Two sides of the debate. So, what did this reaction actually look like on the ground? Well, the public conversation basically shattered into two totally distinct opposing camps. I mean, the battle lines were drawn almost instantly. And you really couldn't get a clearer picture of the divide. On one side, you had supporters who were celebrating what they saw as a huge historic moment. It was progress, it was representation for a massive part of the population. But then, on the other side, you had critics who saw this as a radical break from tradition. They took issue with everything from the Spanish-language lyrics to the artist's personal style.
But here's the thing. To really understand just how intense this whole debate got, we've got to dig a lot deeper than those surface-level arguments. This was never ever really about musical taste.
And this quote just nails it. It's from the research paper that's guiding our whole explainer today called Flags, Football, and Flow by Dr.RRPh.D. His work really helps us unpack why this one single performance became such a powerful cultural flashpoint.
So let's get into Section 4, Unpacking the Culture Wars. Dr. Rodas' study gives us the perfect analytical tools for this. It shows us how to look past a simple argument about music and see this for what it truly was, a proxy battle for much larger cultural fights happening all across America today. So the first key idea is something called cultural citizenship. Now, it sounds a little academic, but the concept is pretty simple. It's all about how people feel like they belong. And for the supporters, this was a massive moment of recognition. It was their community, their culture finally being seen and validated at the absolute center of American life.
And then on the flip side, you have the second concept, moral panic. This basically describes the strategy that critics used. They framed the artist's music, his style, everything about him, as a fundamental threat to so-called American values, hitting hard on ideas of respectability, and whether or not it was family-friendly.
But look, these ideas of cultural citizenship and moral panic aren't just abstract theories. The actual data that Dr. Rodas analyzed shows exactly how this played out in the real world. Let's take a look.
So researchers looked at 200 public comments, articles, social media posts, and the divide is just staggering. 45% were against it, 40% were for it. But what's really telling is how tiny that middle ground is. People were not neutral on this. You were either on one side or the other.
But this chart, this reveals the most telling part of the whole story. The reaction didn't just fall along lines of who likes reggaeton and who doesn't. No, it followed these sharp, predictable partisan divides. You see high approval from Democrats, low approval from Republicans. And that pretty much proves it. This was never just about the music. It was about politics.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Section 5, what this controversy reveals. When you step back from all the noise, what does this one halftime show announcement really tell us about our culture right now?
Dr. Rodas' research really boils it all down to a few critical points. First, the Super Bowl isn't just a game anymore. It's contested cultural territory. Second, anytime you have a major moment of representation like this, you're going to get both intense pride and a powerful backlash. And finally, and this one is so important, arguments about respectability are very often just a cover for double standards based on language and ethnicity. Altogether, these points paint a picture of a country really grappling with change.
So if there's one thing to take away, it's this. This whole firestorm was never actually about Bad Bunny himself. He was just at the center of it.
What this really is a perfect case study for how we as a country are fighting in real time over our own national identity. It's a fight over who gets to belong at the symbolic heart of it all.
And that is really the ultimate takeaway here. The research doesn't offer an easy answer. Instead, it leaves us with this final, powerful question that's not really about football or music at all. It's about our shared future. What does this reaction truly tell us about who feels seen, who feels displaced, and how the very story of America is being rewritten right now on our biggest stages?